Welcome back to the Sports Talk with the Cowboy, and we're here on Thanksgiving week after the Turkey Day, and we're ready for the next week of football. We've had an exciting week with the Buccaneers going up to Indianapolis and winning a 38-31 game with a playoff caliber team. It was a remarkable win on the road against a quality team that had won 5 straight games, and no one can take that away from the Buccaneers going up there and winning it. Lenny Fournette, game ball. The man ran like a tank, okay? The man pulled us up out of the fire. We watched it. We watched him win the game-winning touchdown run. Gronk, again, solid. The difference maker when you double up on God, when you double up on Evans, you're going to leave Gronk out there, and listen, he's going to burn you. Gronk can carry it all by himself when you're going to double up on them other ones. That's why you didn't see much of Evans, much of Godwin. But you've seen a 38-31 win. Seen a lot of fumbles. Seen a muff punt. Seen a muff kickoff. But you've seen a win, 38-31, in a tough environment in Indianapolis with a quality team. That's as good a team as that team will be in the playoffs. That team will be in the playoffs for the AFC. You heard it here first on Sports Talk with the Cowboy. Heard it right here. Indianapolis Colts playoffs. I didn't say division winner. I said playoffs. Okay, we're going on to the 38-31 victory on Sunday. It was a good game. Our secondary continued to be banged up. Jamel Dean was injured, probably out for weeks, if not for the rest of the year. We all know that Richard Sherman's out. We had Pierre Desar. You've never heard of his name. Well, good, because nobody else has. We have heard of his name. We're just jesting. But that's who we had run as a cornerback at the end of the game. He caught an interception on the last pass of the game by the Colts. He tried his best. I'm not saying anything against him. He's a Buccaneer, and we love him, no matter what happens. He's wearing our colors. We love him. You wear the colors of your team, okay? So the team is the Bucks. So we were with Pierre Desar, but he just has not had the experience. And we've heard something about Carlton Davis possibly coming back this week against the Atlanta Falcons, which is a pivotal game. It's a division game, but every victory at this point for the Buccaneers is pivotal, not only to win the division, but win the home field advantage and all the way until the Super Bowl. That's what the Bucks want. And if it was the end today of the season, the Arizona Cardinals would have that #1 seed. And the Green Bay Packers would have the #2 seed. And our Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have the 3rd seed. So we want to move up, and we want to get to the top seed by the time the playoffs start, so that home field advantage will be ours through the playoffs. So big win Sunday, big game this Sunday, 1 o'clock, Atlanta. You know Atlanta, they play us twice a year. Matt Ryan's not what he used to be without an offensive line. He has not much of a receiver core, and his running backs are not noteworthy. But between me and you, them's the kinds of teams that you've got to be prepared to play. Okay, those are the kind of teams, the trap game teams, that will beat you. Okay, the Buccaneers cannot make mistakes. They cannot make penalties. They cannot be offsides. And they're going to have to deliver a pass rush that will keep Matt Ryan from picking a secondary that is garbage. Okay, basically garbage. You said, well, you got Winfield, you know, he's back there. You do. You have, good players, but they're all dinged up. I don't think Murphy Bunting is 100%. He's got that elbow cast on his elbow when he's been hurt. He's been back now a couple of weeks, but I don't think he's 100%, maybe 70, 80%. And, Desir off the practice squad up there, so you just have a terrible situation. We need some players to come back, and Carlton Davis would be a big pickup if we could do that, but we haven't heard anything. And we haven't heard anything about Antonio Brown as a receiver in the game with the Falcons on Sunday. So I don't know that he'll be back. I really don't think he will be. But we do have Scotty Miller back. Scotty Miller really contributed the other day, and I like me some Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller, okay, that's Cowboys Buccaneer, okay? It has been since last year. Scotty Miller got the touchdown at Lambeau Field from Tom Brady. But the other day, got that muff punt, got that kickoff. It was fumbled, and they all led the scores, and he got an interception, a pass interference at the end zone, which would have been a touchdown, but it got the ball down inside the 5, and we scored on it. So all those contributions, let's start counting them up. That's about 21 points attributed near his name. So Scotty Miller, game ball from Sports Talk with the Cowboy for this week's game in Indianapolis. This week in Atlanta, let's get up there and get out of there without anybody getting hurt. And let's win that game and put a win in the win column for us to try to move up on the seeding, and watch everybody else and hope that the good ones lose. Okay? So that's what was happening in the NFL. Of course, the big news in the college football was the firing of coaches and coaches leaving. But we're still with the NFL, and it's going to have to be a tough game to beat the Atlanta Falcons anytime, because any team could beat you anywhere. So we're going to go on to a little bit more about the college football rankings after this week's tremendous victory by the Michigan Wolverines. Alex, if you're out there, I know you're a subscriber of the Cowboy Sports Talk with the Cowboy, and you, a Michigan fan, a Wolverine fan, and I've always relished the Big Ten. Between the SEC, Big Ten, and ACC, everybody else, well, what are they? Personally, I'll take that team of all-stars within 3 conferences against any conference out west of the Mississippi. Okay? You can just go on and put them all together, and we'll play. So Big Ten has always been a dear conference. SEC, of course, where we are down here in Florida. That's where we are, so we're SEC. But after the SEC, the Big Ten for me. So Michigan and Ohio State, it don't get any better than that. Auburn and Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Ohio State, Michigan in the rivalry that's always been. And Ohio State, of course, has won that rivalry for years and years and years. At least 5 to 6 years, I think it was. Maybe it was 7. But Harbaugh was under fire in Michigan to win that game. And he delivered Saturday when Michigan opened up a 55-gallon drum of whoop-ass on Ohio State. Michigan beat Ohio State thoroughly in every physical category on the field. They came out to win, they went out to win, and they beat their ass. Okay? This was a whipping that Michigan put on Ohio State, that Ohio State will not only forget, but will wear the scar of that whipping. Okay, so good for Michigan Wolverines and Jim Harbaugh and Alex and all the Wolverines. But the weather was Big Ten weather. You know, it was cold and there was a little bit of ice and beautiful Big Ten weather. I mean, you think of Big Ten, that's what you think of. This rivalry lived up to its billing this week. See the fans of Michigan run on that field, ecstatic. That coach finally getting that burden of every day getting asked the same question. When you going to beat Ohio State? When you going to beat Ohio State? Well, he did it. He did it this week with a good team around him, an offensive line that was just absolutely superb. I mean, that was the textbook blocking off that offensive line. It was a tremendous game. One of the greatest games I've seen. And so here at Sports Talk with the Cowboy, we watch a lot of sports. And that was one of the most tremendous college ball games that I remember, that Ohio State-Michigan game this Saturday. So hats off for that game. And we're going to get ready for this next week. There'll be some championship series decided. SEC championship in Atlanta. The Georgia Bulldogs, ranked number 1 in the country, against the number 3 ranked in the country, Alabama Crimson Tide, for the SEC title. Somebody's got to lose. Somebody's got to lose. And whoever loses is going to drop in the polls. That means that the other teams will be going up in the polls. So we're going to be watching closely here at Sports Talk with the Cowboy. This week, the historic racing endurance series, 8 historic sports car racers will be at the 12-hour endurance track at Sebring, our home track here. We broadcast out of Sebring, and this is our hometown. So the historic race will be out at the Sebring International Raceway this week, December 4th and 5th, 3rd, which is tomorrow. will be able to be open to the public for the qualifying and to go walk around and see the cars. The older cars that have run at the 12 Hours of Sebring and endurance races all over the world. They're wonderful cars with wonderful histories to tell about them. And it's very good to take your family out there and get out there and meet the people, touch the drivers, touch the cars, and get into the history of that race. And that's what's so beautiful about motorsports and beautiful about the 12 Hours of Sebring. You can go to the drivers and talk to the drivers and actually see them. You know, you're not paying an autograph fee to walk up and them shake your hand. So get on out there to Sebring this week. Here at the Sports Talk with the Cowboy, we will be covering motorsports throughout this series and throughout our broadcast. We'll be preparing for next year's NASCAR racing, which will kick off with the Daytona 500, the Great American Race. The Endurance Racing Series that will kick off at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, which happens to be a weekend before the 500 at Daytona. And then the St. Petersburg Grand Prix, which will kick off the Indy Racing Series. Just happens that all three of those series, national, international series, are starting in, guess where? Florida. So we'll be covering motorsports. We'll have those months covered pretty closely. So we want to keep you posted on all that's going on out at the historic 12 Hours of Sebring, the oldest endurance race in North America. Where the endurance racing of North America was born was at Sebring. It is the oldest endurance race in North America. Second oldest in the world, the globe we live on. Only Le Mans has more races in its annals than the 12 Hours of Sebring. So the Rolex 24 Hours, though, is run before, and it's 24 hours. It isn't as old, and it hasn't been run as many times as our home track. So we're going to tell you about our home track. This week, the Historic Boys and Historic Vintage Racers in wonderful cars will be carrying on their races out at Sebring. Shorter races than the 12 hours, but very enjoyable races, and you can get up close to the cars. The weather should be good. Get you some sandwiches and take you a few dollars and buy you an Italian sausage and get out there to the track. Support the vendors. Support the local people that volunteer and go out there and put on such an international event in this town. So we want you to continue to do that. We also want you to try to get ready for baseball season and watch some of the baseball moves that are being made. Juan DeFranco becomes the largest paid Tampa Bay Ray in baseball history. So that was just some local news that it broke in the last few days. God bless you. Cowboy out.